I remember always feeling the urge that I needed to go to the toilet after my uncle had told me to turn the fire off and not to tell my mum because I would be in so much trouble. I was so scared of the mess I was making and the fact that the fire was on. It used to sit with me all the time, and when my mum kind of used to come home from work or the next morning, I used to pray, I used to think, oh my God, please don't be cross with me. It's almost as though I was holding something inside, and I was so afraid that she would find out that that fire had been on and that I'd had cornflakes. Now, my uncle was my mum's brother. My nana, who lived 6, 7, 8 miles away in the next village, his son. My nana, my uncle's mum, my nana was so lovely, so lovely. She was a little lady. She used to come and visit us on the bus. And I always remember back then, I think she used to put 2p on the kitchen table, and it was kind of some money for us to get some sweets. Such a lovely lady. And next door lived my gran, who was my dad's mum. Now, she was a really big lady, really big, robust lady. I don't remember my grandfather, the gentleman who was married to my gran. I believed he passed either when I was born or near after I was born, so I never really knew him. But my gran, she used to always make us jam sandwiches, and we used to go to her garden and we'd sit on her bench. And her garden was so manicured, so lovely. It was always lovely going to my gran's house. She didn't say much, a bit of a stern lady. And she had lots and lots of sons, my dad obviously being one of them. But she used to make us jam sandwiches. Oh, it was lovely. And we used to... my brothers and I used to go and hunt for brambles. Our cottages, at the bottom of our cottages was our gardens. My gran's was very manicured, and our garden was very unkempt, not looked after at all. And so we'd go and get brambles and give them to my gran, and she'd make bramble jam, and it was just absolutely lovely. And I just remember feeling really safe at my grandma's. It was a really nice place, even though she was quite stern and she was a big lady, quite robust. And I just used to see my uncles, one of them who actually still lived with my gran until she passed. I used to look at her other brothers her other sons, and sort of think, why can't my dad be like that? Why can't my dad be funny and loving and nice and why is he always angry? Why is he always shouting? Why are there doors slamming? Why can't they be bothered? Obviously as an adult now, those are the words I think and I portray to you. But back then I did used to think that. And it's funny, isn't it? We may all come from the same blood, but we are all different. And that's okay, as long as you are making the right choices. So if anything comes out of me saying my story, the story of me, I want it to show people who have been abused, not necessarily sexually, but people who are still being abused, whether this is in a relationship, whatever spectrum. When people take choice away from you, it is not your fault. Please do not take ownership of it. Please. It is just not your fault. When people take choices away from us, it's called abuse and it's called control. I used to love it when my grandbaby sat, because like I said, we'd always have jam sandwiches, and we used to go to her house. She never came to our house. And eventually my gran's legs, I think, got too poorly, and so eventually she was rehoused right in the centre of the village, and she was given a little council bungalow there, and so she moved, and I'm not sure if anybody moved in next door to us at all. I'm really not sure. All I remember about our garden, it was always overgrown. There was a path full of dandelions and so forth. But as a child, you don't kind of really think about that, do you? I remember the smell of tomatoes in my gran's garden as well. They had a greenhouse, and she grew her own tomatoes, and it always smelt so lovely, so lovely. I remember going in there when I shouldn't have done, and I actually cut my toe on a piece of glass, and I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried, and I've still got that silver scar today on my toe. I was so small. I still can't really remember what age I was, but I cried and I cried and I cried, and there was so much blood. And as you all know, you know, a little cut, there's always lots and lots of blood. And I cried 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 for my dad. And looking back now, I'm just thinking, why did I cry for him? And it just goes to show what control and what control it has over us as human beings. So like I say, I've still got that little scar today. And I never really spoke to my grandma, but that day I did speak to her because it just hurt so much. And I just wanted my dad, and I just think it's funny, isn't it? All the things that went on in my life, that were going on in my life back then, and it was somebody who was hurting me that I wanted the most. My youngest brother always seemed to get away with stuff. Always. And that's how it really has been, and until kind of, I think we were grown-ups. Sadly, you know, I believe he's been in prison a couple of times. I also believe he's got numerous children. That's his choice. That's up to him. When I married my first husband, he actually sent me a letter demanding £50 so he could come to my wedding. So, you know, again, it's all about choice. I mean, look at me. I have two beautiful children. No way am I perfect. No way am I perfect at all. But you know what? I try and make good choices, and I know right from wrong. Anyway, tune in for my next instalment of my story. Thank you.